Alright guys, what is up? My name is Jordan Fremgen. If you don't know who I am, I'm a graphic designer, photographer, and content creator. And so today we're going to talk about image compositing, and I'm going to walk you through step by step on how I create mine once I drink this coffee. Man, I don't know if you guys ever tried cold brew, but not only that, cold brew with nitrogen infused. Oh my gosh, so good. It's not sponsored, just try it, okay? Let's get into this video. Okay, so the image you see here is the image composite we'll be putting together today. And if you don't know what image compositing is, it's just basically when we bring many images together in Photoshop to create one full unique image. And so typically artists will use this style of art to create just an unrealistic type of image or something that's just not physically possible in the real world, but making for some really interesting artwork to look at. So in this case, we have this gentleman who's walking into the heavens or this heavenly realm. And so I'm going to show you step by step on how I created this. So let's go ahead and delete this layer and start from scratch. If I open up my finders, here's my assets. We've got 7 images that are going to make up this graphic, and I'm going to load up layer 1, which is a cloud formation, and basically our main image here as well, because we have this gap here which serves as our gateway into this heavenly realm anyway. So I think I created my center point, with rulers, which I'm going to center this opening because it's kind of a perspective image anyway. And so, but we're left with this gap here at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and rasterize this and stretch it out. So I don't typically stretch out images unless it's a small gap like this. You can't really tell that you stretched it, and so that works perfectly well. So let's go on to layer 2. Layer 2 is also another cloud formation, but I'm going to be blending these images together. I'm going to be using a lot of blend modes in this tutorial. And I think what I did was I just used the moon. Really, I think I zoomed in quite a bit. So go ahead and do that and bring it up to the corner here. Hit enter, and let's blend this and see how it did. So I think I used overlay. But an overlay, that looks pretty good. Now let's stretch it up a little bit more. I'll zoom out quite a bit. All right. And that looks pretty good. So yeah, kind of looks like cotton candy a little bit. So what I'm going to do is grab a hue and saturation adjustment layer and drag down that saturation quite a bit to give me more flexibility later on. So bring that down, drag up the lightness quite a bit. Looks pretty good. And so now in doing this, I have a lot more flexibility as I keep going. I brought out a lot of the color, or I drew back a lot of the color so that I can color this how I want to. So let's go ahead and check out the next layer, which is layer 3. It's this northern lights type of picture, and this is going to give our picture a lot of the color that I want to have. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's bring this down a little bit. I want to see the top of that light, and go ahead and blend this with the overlay as well. And there you go. Now you can see our picture is taking on this rich blue teal color, which I love. It's a little vibrant, so I'm going to use the vibrance adjustment layer to kind of draw that back as well. Not too much, around 30, looking good. Okay, so there we go. I think there's another layer to blend as well. Layer 4, I got this picture mainly because of the stars in the sky, so I'm going to kind of have to brush out and cut out that bottom portion there. So I'm going to use a layer mask to do so. Let's use the brush tool, and then when you brush on a layer mask with black, you can just simply brush it away without damaging the picture, which is nice. So I'm going to do that, brush out all this orange because I don't really need that. I just want the stars in the sky. Let's go ahead and blend this out and see how it looks. Go ahead and overlay. Go ahead and soften that up a little bit. Alright, so let me show you before and after on what I did there. So there's before, this is after. So you can see those stars are really coming out now, and really made the background really come alive and become more rich. So I think we have like a really nice layered backdrop for our image now. We have the clouds in the front, we have like the centerpiece here, and the moon is tucked away in the back there, so giving our image a lot of depth and a lot of dimension to this picture, which is really nice. Okay, so this next layer that I added wasn't an image, just a blank layer, again using the brush tool, but in this case I'm going to use a downloaded brush. I downloaded this brush with this spotlight, which will kind of give me this glowing effect coming out from this gap here, making it just a little bit more heavenly, kind of. So let me try to center that a little bit more. There we go, and I'm going to really draw that back. So let's bring it, I think what I did was like 50%. I just want to make it a little subtle so that you don't really notice it, but it's there, and it really gives that a lot more of a heavenly aspect to it. So that looks really good. And so now what I'm going to do is hit V to go back to my move tool, and I'm going to hit Command Option Shift E. It's a big shortcut that does a real major thing. It takes all the layers that I just created and merges them down into this new layer. So all my layers are still there, but it just merges it into a new layer. So I'll call this merged. And the reason why I did that is because I want to make a reflection at the bottom of this graphic, because this guy is walking on, I made it look like he's walking on water, and water will have a reflection. So let's go ahead and go to transform and flip vertically to make a reflection. Drag this down a little bit. And again, I'm going to use a layer mask to brush this out. Let's go back to a normal brush and brush this out. Just kind of fade it out. I like to fade with the brush. It gives me a lot more flexibility. So go ahead and do that. Maybe soften this up just a tiny bit, maybe like 90%. And that looks pretty good. We have a nice reflection there, but I'm not going to stop there. I want to make it look a little bit more like water. So I'm going to actually turn this into a smart object now. And in doing that, now I can add some filters without damaging the picture. So I'm going to go up to Filter. I'm going to use Gaussian Blur, because water doesn't reflect the detail perfectly. So then just a soft Gaussian Blur, one pixel will be fine in this case. And go back to filter again, and I'm going to add a ripple effect. It's just going to kind of give me this watery ripple effect going on. So it kind of looks like watercolor paint right now, but I'm going to add some texture, some water puddle texture in there to really draw out the puddle aspect to this later on. So hit OK. Let's zoom in and see how that looks. Looking pretty good. Looks like water, still looks like paint a little bit, but like I said, we'll fix that, but it looks pretty good for right now. So awesome, it looks pretty good. Let's move on to what's next, and I think what's next is our model. Yep. So I already have this PSD that I made. I've already cut them out to save that step of the video. Here's our full image though, what we're working with, and so if I delete this, here's our cutout. I just used the pen tool to make points all around this guy, made that a selection, use the refine edge tool, and just kind of smooth out the edges to make it a real nice cutout. So if you'd like me to do a video on cutting things out, well, I'd love to do that, but that could be a video all on its own, and I'm sure it would be a good one. So let me know in the comments what you think about that, if you need some help cutting things out well. Let's position this guy where we need him. I think a little smaller. That should be pretty good. I use the arrows just to kind of shimmy him where I need to. Hit enter. Good. Alright, so I'm going to be adding a lot of adjustments to this guy just because his coloring is not right, his shadow and highlights are not right. So whenever I'm going to be adding a lot of adjustments to something, I just make it a smart object layer just to kind of prevent me from damaging the picture. So but now that it's a smart object layer, I'm going to double click on this, and it's going to isolate him from everything else just so I can focus on him for a second. And I'm going to use the burn tool and the dodge tool to kind of help me with this. The burn tool will darken up some parts to this, so I'm really going to darken up the backside of him, because the backside of him is not getting as much light as it was originally showing. So I'm going to darken his legs too, back here, his arms. That's pretty good. Okay, and I'm also going to use the dodge tool a little bit here just to kind of accentuate the highlights that he's got going on. Let's zoom in here. does have some highlights, but there's a harsh light hitting him, so I really want to accentuate those highlights. Alright, so let's hit save, Command S to save this, and I'm going to leave this tab open for now, but I'll go back to the original, and you can see that it made the adjustments on this end. Here's before, there's after. The highlights and shadows are really working for us way better now. So, alright, so what I'm going to do now is make him a reflection. So, because there's going to be a reflection on his part as well. I want to scoot him up so I can show more of his reflection. Make him a little smaller. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command J, duplicate him, call this reflection. Okay, and actually this should be a reflection as well. But I go back up here and I'm going to go ahead and transform him. Drag him down. So this foot will be touching because it's actually on the ground, and that part will be separated. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's change the blend mode on this. So I'm going to use hard light this time. I'll kind of create a nice softer blend there, and I'm also, so now he's a smart object that can actually add some filters, so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the water. Okay, so now that he's like that, I'm going to go ahead and put all these guys in a folder, the Model 3 and Reflection, because I'm going to add some adjustment layers and I want to clip them to this folder so it affects everything. So let's go ahead and make I'm going to make a curves first. Go ahead and hold Option and click in between these two layers to clip it to that. And I'm just going to make some points here in the shadows, midtones, and highlights, and adjust accordingly. I think I'm going to make like a simple S curve to start off with. I'm going to drag up this point here to create more of a faded effect. So if I zoom in here, you can see that it's kind of fading it out a little bit to soften it up with the rest of the image. I'm also going to definitely drag down some saturation. Clip that as well. Let's see here. Maybe 4 is good. Drag up the lightness as well because he's using a very bright atmosphere, but not very much. 8 should do the trick. So zoom out and see what it looks like now. Now he's fitting this whole blend a lot better. And I think the last thing I'm going to do is just add some gradient to make his coloring fit as well. So go ahead and clip that. So let's go ahead in here, and I think I saved a preset. Looking pretty good, but of course we're going to drag out that opacity quite a bit, maybe down to like 20% or so. So now, see before, after, we got his coloring is fitting this atmosphere, his highlights and his shadows are working way better, and his reflection is also got the textures that it needs to fit this circumstance. So looking pretty good. Let's go on to our next layer, which I think is going to be a puddle. Yep. So what I'm going to do is drag this puddle in here, and we can see we have this kid in here, which we don't need. We just need the texture of the puddle. Probably could have found a better picture than this without a kid jumping in it, but I really wanted all those ripples in there as well, so that's why I did that. So I'm going to kind of work the heck out of this, and I'm probably going to speed this up because I'm going to just be working the heck out of this to kind of make it fit. So, but I'm going to start with a layer mask and just brush out a lot of this image. Alright, so now that I brushed the heck out of this image, I'm actually going to position this where it needs to be, so I'm going to bring it down to his feet here. So you can see how this will benefit us. Also, this should be below him, so I'm going to drag this down. I should probably call this folder model for organization purposes. And I'm going to stretch out this puddle a little bit so that it kind of fills everything that we need. And I think I'm going to use a blend mode. Let's try soft light. So yeah, that kind of softened it quite a bit, but it's very, very subtle. And but I think I can bring it back with some levels. So let's check out a levels adjustment layer, clip that, and let's see here if I can get back the detail a little bit. All right, just a couple adjustments, but it's so subtle, but it makes a huge difference. It makes it look like he's actually walking on water, and it blends it with the ripple effect that we had before as well. So zoomed out, you can really see that it makes a huge difference. That was without, this is with, huge difference in my opinion. So let's keep on going. I think what we have one thing left, that is the birds. So I want to go on top, so click on the top layer there, bring this in here, and we have some birds that I'm going to add just to kind of give it that more heavenly atmosphere. And I found a picture with birds that are more or less silhouetted out, and this is the reason why. I can actually simply cut out these birds with one simple little tool, and that's in the select drop-down menu. And if I hit color range, I can click on the color range that I want. So in this case, it's this dark black. Click on that, and it will select everything that is that color in my entire project. So I'm gonna go ahead and I think that was saved from before, so 80 is pretty good. I'm gonna hit OK. It will select some of the clouds here, but we can brush that out later. But when I hit the layer mask tool, it saved just that part of the birds, and so that's it. It's already cut out. So let's go ahead and brush out that little cloud over there that kind of got it added to this, and position this where we want them. So I'm going to scale these guys down. I think what I did was I flipped them around as well. A little in there. All right, position them kind of up here in the sky a little bit. Trim it down a little bit more. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Just kind of being finicky with it now, but all right. So one last thing we got to do is create a reflection for these guys as well. So Command J. I'm going to drag these guys down, flip them around, flip vertically, bring these guys down so they are higher up in the sky, so they're going to be further back. I can actually scale this down a little bit because they are further up in the sky. And I'm going to create the same effect that I did with everything else. So Smart Objects, Filter. I think I saved Ripple from before, so I'll use that. Okay. Filter again, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Hit OK. It remembers the settings you used last, so that makes it easy. Let's drag down this opacity quite a bit. We could soften it up. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do is actually put these guys in a folder as well. Keep them together. And one thing I'm going to do is actually fade out these reflections a little bit, because I noticed in working that as things get further away from the light source, they tend to fade out. So this won't be perfectly visible as you fade towards the bottom. So let's go ahead and grab that bird's reflection. Call that reflection, bird's reflection, and create a little mask here, and just use a soft brush to fade out the bottom here. They're not going to be perfectly visible out in the back there. I'm going to have to do that for my model as well. So here's the model folder, there's the reflection, mask, brush it out. Oh yeah, looks a lot better. Okay, looking pretty good. All right. And so the last thing I'm going to do is just add some adjustment layers over this entire thing, just to kind of seal everything together. So let's create a little vibrance. Bring that back up. I think I might use some levels as well. That contrast, make it a little sharper. Looking good. And of course, a gradient map with the right preset. Soften that up. Looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, just a nice subtle gradient map will do the trick. Alright guys, well that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you learned something new out of this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment below if you thought anything was useful, or you want to give me some feedback, or you want to contribute to the community of designers and have some tips. This is for everyone to learn something, even myself. So comment below, like this video, subscribe, hit that bell to get some notifications for when I post videos, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.